In part 3, I will discuss my induction, my emergency C-section, and a little bit of in between, and also the beginning of our NICU stay. I do want to advise a trigger warning just because it gets really emotional. And if you've had a child um, that was in the NICU, or if you had an emergency C-section or anything like that, it could trigger those emotions. So I'm just giving you a warning now, and I'm just going to jump into part 3. So here we go.
You have a guy baby?
A girl baby.
Yeah.
For who?
For you.
Who's gonna have a baby?
You. So you can have a baby.
I'm your greatest despair, and I hope you'll be mine. What if we...
So they transfer me to a labor and delivery room. The NICU people come in and they explain the process to Gerald and I. They get me all set up on a monitor. Gerald goes home because inductions take forever, and he went home, and I'm texting him, grab this for me. And I'm trying to get comfortable. The bed in the high risk room was amazing, like it was amazing. But the bed in the labor and delivery room was awful. It was like a prison mattress. So I'm trying to get comfortable, but I only can lay on my side to get comfortable. In about 30 minutes, I doze off and I wake up and I'm trying to roll over, but I got all these wires and IVs in me. And the doctor comes in and she's looking at the monitor and she's like, something's wrong. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? And she's like, he's not moving and he's in distress. So then another doctor comes in with the ultrasound machine and they hook me up to the ultrasound machine, and I'm sitting straight up in bed now. And they're like, you gotta lay back. So I lay back and they get me all hooked up. And I said, and I said, is my baby alive? Is he alive? And the doctors are like, he's alive, his heart is beating, but he won't move, and we need him to move. So they're going around on my stomach. I'm pushing him, and like I said earlier, Major is active, like he moved all the time, all day. My baby would not move, and they said that he had to move within 6 minutes, or I had to, Lord. I'm gonna get through this. Or I would have to get an emergency C-section. So I usually 6 minutes is no time, right? But 6 minutes, when you're watching your baby on the screen and he's just frozen, it seemed like an eternity. It seemed like forever. And he did not move. And he would not move. He was just balled up. And I could see his heart flickering, but he wouldn't budge. And I'm texting Gerald, hurry up, get back. Something is wrong. And I kept asking, is he okay? Is he alive? Is he okay? This experience, hands down, the hardest thing that I've ever done in my entire life. And it affects me every day. Even now. So Gerald is on his way, and they're getting me ready to go. And he gets there, and he puts his scrubs on and everything, and they wheel me to the R. And I remember being present, but it was almost like I was standing like off to the side, just watching everything happen. So we get to the R, and Gerald has to wait outside till they get me ready. And I remember they had me sit up on the bed and hang my feet off so that I can get the spinal tap. And they said, curl your back like a cat. But your natural reflex is to do like this, but a cat goes like this. So it took about an hour, and you couldn't move, or you had to start over, or you can mess yourself up. So they just kept poking me. Finally, they got it after an hour or so, and they get me in position, and the doctors come over and they hang the drape up. And there was this nurse that she stood in front of me when they did the spinal tap, and she rubbed my back and she rubbed my hair. And I remember she was so pregnant, like so pregnant, and her stomach kept hitting me, and she had to be like due any day. And I kept saying, like, why can't I be that pregnant? Like, why do I have to? Why do I have to go through this? I did everything that I was supposed to do. I tried to do everything right. And yet, I gotta do this. Anyway, I can't even remember her name, but when I say she was like an angel sent at that moment to help me through, she just kept talking to me and telling me that he's okay and I'm okay, and that we were going to be okay, and she was there to help me and answer any questions that I had, and she was just walking through every single step. If somebody said something in that room, she would repeat it to me so I knew what was going on. They got the spinal tap, they got me in position on the bed, and they put the drape up. She was right here to my left, and they brought Gerald in, and he was to my right. And she was like, you got this, Mom, you got this. I'm gonna hear your baby cry, and he's gonna be okay, and you're gonna get through this. And if something ever happened that she's seen this, I just want to tell her how much I appreciated that. Because I was so scared. I was mortified. The lights were so bright, you could barely see. And it was so hot in there. And she explained that so hard. She explained that the temperature has to be hot because preemie babies cannot regulate their own body temperature. So when they come out, it has to be very warm. So I'm like, okay. So they start, I'm telling Gerald, get your camera, like have your camera ready. And he did. And he was holding my hand and rubbing my arm. And a few minutes later, they was like, The nurse said, "He's coming." They pulled him out, and I just, and he hollered. Major was pissed. He was not ready. He was so mad. He was so red. He was so little. And he screamed. And after all the stuff I went through, that cry was just like, it was just like, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for getting us this far. And usually, like, in movies that I've seen, you know, you have a C-section and they bring your baby over and you can see your baby and they wrap him up and they bring him to you and you can kiss him and you can, you know, snuggle them and talk to them. But I couldn't do that. I couldn't snuggle my baby because they had to hurry up and put him in like this plastic bag to keep him warm. They put him in the incubator, and I could. I had carried this baby for 31 weeks, and I fell in love with him. And I felt him move, and I sang to him, and I talked to him. And he came out of me. I couldn't see him because they had to rush him to the NICU. And I just wanted to see my baby. I just wanted to see my baby. And I mean, I understand now why I couldn't, but they could have gave me another baby and I wouldn't have known, because I had no idea what it looked like. I didn't know what his hair looked like. I didn't know what color his eyes were. I didn't even know how much my baby weighed. So they get me all stitched up. It's like an eerie silence in the room because there's no baby, and they're trying to get me sewn up, and they did. And I went to recovery. You had to stay in recovery for an hour to make sure everything was okay. You weren't bleeding internally or anything like that. And I got to recovery, and I asked the nurse, how much does my baby weigh? She was like, I don't know, but I can look for you. And I was so happy. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And she looked in there and she said he weighs 4 pounds, 6 ounces, and 16 and a half inches long. And he's doing great. And I was just, it made me so happy. I don't know why, it was just something positive just made me so happy. And I was just laughing because Camille was 36 weeks and she weighed 4 pounds, 12 ounces. And Major was 31 weeks and he weighed 4 pounds, 6 ounces. Like, the boy was destined to be 10 pounds if he waited till full term. So we waited in there and the nurse said, I can, on the way back to your room, I can take you by the NICU so you can see him. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you, thank you. So we got up in the elevator and we got to the NICU floor, and I'll never forget. They took me to the nurse's station, and I'm in this big, awkward hospital bed. But those nurses, they were determined, and I was so happy because I wanted to see my baby. They took me down this long hallway, and I had no idea how many minutes and hours and days that I would walk down that hallway every day to see my baby. And we got to his room. They pushed that big awkward bed in there, and he was in the incubator, and he was so small. He had a diaper on, and it was so big. It was a preemie diaper, and he had all these wires in it. He had all these wires, this mask on his face, and he had IVs in his foot. And I still couldn't see him. But I talked to him, and I explained that he was okay, that he was safe, and that I loved him, and that mommy would be back. It took me to my room, and I had to be the IV pump for magnesium again for my blood pressure. But this time I had to be for 24 hours. So what that means is I couldn't get up. I had to stay in that bed in that spot for 24 hours. Mind you, I had not seen my baby already. I didn't get to hold him or anything. They could have brought me a random baby, and I would have had to accept that was my baby because I didn't know what he looked like. So I had him at 9 p.m. and I started me on the magnesium. 24 hours later, Sunday, at 9 p.m. I had to stay in that bed for 24 hours, and my baby was 1 floor above me, or below me, and I couldn't see him. And I called, and they said he was doing okay. As soon as 901 hit, I called that nurse. Before she got there, I was pulling stuff off me. I was already out the bed, and she was like, I've never seen anybody who just had a C-section do that. And I'm like, I gotta go see my baby. And I stood up, and my stomach felt so heavy, but I was just walking. You could hear the diaper behind me making noise, and she was like, wait, I can get you a wheelchair. And I didn't even think about a wheelchair. I was about to walk my butt all the way down there, see my baby. And I got down there, and you had to wash your hands and check in and show them my bracelet. Gerald was there, and took him out the incubator, and he had all these cords hanging. And I took my shirt and stuff off, and they laid him on my chest, and he just balled up. Like he just knew. Like he just knew it was me. And we sat there in silence for probably an hour, and I just held him. That was the first time I got to see him. And I'll never forget that moment my entire life. The relief. I was just so thankful. Like, finally, I got to hold you. I'll tell him, like, I'm your mama. And mama's okay, and you're okay, and we're gonna get through this. And that was easier said than done. So I kind of went through the emotions again, and I remember needing something to sleep because I was just so upset and traumatized. That's the word. Traumatized. I was traumatized. I'm still traumatized. I am still traumatized. There are no words to explain the emotions and the life of a Nicu mom. Nothing can explain that type of hurt and that type of pain. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging in there with me. Going through that was super emotional for me. Talking about it is emotional, and rewatching it is definitely emotional. But I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and be on the lookout for the last part of this particular series. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for your support, and I will see you on the next video.
There's
You have a guy, baby?
A girl baby.
Yeah.
For who?